Your book is entitled Afrobeat, Fela and the Imagined Continent.
That's right.
Africa is the imagined continent?
Precisely. The sense of, I didn't want to call it Africa so that it can also have what you call that poetic flair, an imagined continent. The name can even change, anything can change, but he imagined a continent of the kinds of things that he said, the kinds of things that he read, the kinds of things that he published, not just through records, but also through his writings in his magazines and his newspaper. Don't forget that he also had things like Yap News, which he published periodically, in those days. And he gave lectures across campuses in this country and abroad.
Was Fela an intellectual?
He was a public intellectual, obviously. He was a public intellectual, obviously.
What was his imagination of Africa?
Okay, basically, Fela imagined Africa largely as his dream of a future's Africa was one in which its people will be united along a common purpose, and its people will have a sense of development that will not be harmful to its citizenry. Its people will have some kind of lease of life. But what I noticed, that Fela tried as much as possible to get out of a racial definition of Africa, but not quite successfully. But he now and again resorts to blackness and all that. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a limitation, but I would say those were his preferences. But now and again, he will step out of it. I talk of Nasser, Abdul Nasser, and we'll talk about the leaders of Sudan and all of those progressive, Bembela in Algeria, and on and on and on and on. Those will happen, but largely he had the ethnic sense of Africa, to a large extent. But whatever it is, he wanted a united Africa.
You said here, Fela's imagined universe, of which Africa was its epicenter, takes off from an idyllic Renaissance Africa with a scribal culture. Can you break that down?
Yeah, many scholars will come and say Africa has no writing. It was largely oralist and all that, but it's not nothing can be further than the truth. This is actually mankind's home of the earliest writing. Discovered by everybody so far. We know of all the experience of ancient Egypt, and people don't actually understand. They see these things within the prism of maybe 20 years or 30 years. People don't understand migratory patterns, that sometimes you find names in Igbo land and you go to Malawi, you find the same name. Or earlier, so people have moved off and on, But largely, this was an Egypt without the Arabs. So it's important to first get that. This was an Egypt without the Romans, without the Greeks. This was basically an Egypt of black people, along with their lighter cousins like the Berbers and the rest. We knew when the Arabs crossed the Arabian Peninsula and got here. So that's not even a debate. Even people, when you go to Egypt, will tell you, and I was speaking with a couple of years back, I've forgotten Baba's name now, the director of Afro-Asian Center in Cairo, and he was quite clear about this, that the whole issue of Arab Egypt is a much more recent. Now, before all of these people came, we had all of those writings. Now, the interesting thing, so in the manner, now there's no way you could claim that people who had this civilization and say they are inferior. So in order to enslave them. So what you then did was to say they are not the creators of this. But you know the interesting thing. Now, even if you claim that Egypt is not an African invention, some people came from Mars or from the moon, and created all the writings. How about the fact that the larger number of pyramids are actually not even in Egypt, they are in Sudan, even as we speak? So anyway, we don't even have to go to...
Fela knew all this.
Oh, he knew all of these things.
He studied hard.
Well, he studied, on literature of this nature, yes.